to the Round Table with Vienna Whyte, episode 85. I'm one of your hosts, Millie Rouge.
And I'm Marissa Kay, your other host.
And together we make up the band Vienna Whyte from Edmonton, Canada. This roundtable is a YEG Music production. Marissa, could you start us off today by introducing the guests that we have on the show today?
Absolutely. So we have Sons of Owen, Eve, Bandicoot, and HMS Morris. We'd love to hear a little bit about you guys and your musical journeys. So we're going to go around the room and you guys are going to introduce yourselves for our audience. Sons of Owen, can we start with you?
My name's Dewi. I'm lead singer of the band Sons of Owen. We're a Americana/country band from Swansea, Wales. We've been going for a couple of years now. I've been doing some stuff with the Americana Fest this year, doing some songwriting workshops. So it's been a quiet year, but that's kept me busy throughout it.
Awesome. Eve, can we hear from you next?
Hi, my name's Eve Goodman. I am a singer-songwriter from North Wales in a village called Felinheli. And I've been playing music for as long as I can remember, really. I'm working on an album at the moment and an EP because I like being busy, apparently. I write and sing in English and Welsh.
That's awesome. Bandicoot, can we hear from you next?
Hello, we're Bandicoot. We're from Swansea, South Wales. We've been playing together for a couple of years, but we've been in bands for maybe almost, I guess, between 5 and 10 years in Swansea. And we're just sort of working on our debut album at the moment. We're recording in Cardiff. And we're sort of enjoying just writing music and living together, really, and having a good time.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing. And HMS Morris.
Hello, we're HMS Morris. We've been playing together since about 2012. And we also write bilingually in Welsh and English. And we've released 2 albums and an EP's on the way out next week.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. It's nice to hear about you guys. For anybody who's watching, in case you're wondering, we're talking about music from Wales today, in case it was not made blatantly obvious by the graphics that we have up on screen right now. So we're going to dive right into our questions today. I'm very excited to learn about this because I literally know nothing about Wales music scene, so this is really exciting. So when you're in such a small area like Wales, compared to larger music scenes like England, what helps you to not fall into that thought trap of, I'm in this small music scene, I may never make it because of where I am?
I've had feelings of that in the past, but Wales itself has got its own, I would say, individual music scene. We've got quite a lot of independent festivals going, like Soon Focus Wales, which is a global music conference and festival. So, but it does help to travel as well, to get out a bit, because it is a small country, but we do have quite a successful live music scene, I would say, standing on its own feet.
Yeah, I'd say that's a completely fair thing to say, because I mean, even if it is a small area, you get that kind of concentrated music, which, I mean, it's kind of cool if like everybody knows each other too. Do you find that that's a thing that happens in your music scene? Like, do you all know each other, or is it more of like just trying to promote the scene outside of that music scene?
I would say like I know of everyone here, so in the music scene, I think you all kind of know each other, because there's loads of new bands coming through, but like everyone kind of sticks together, I would say.
I was just going to say, there's always been a really good eye on Wales from the outside, just because we've had a pretty good back record with like some really good bands. Since the 90s, since Catatonia, Super Furry Animals, Manic Street Preachers. So it's never been, and I think we're pretty ambitious people, the Welsh people. I think so anyway. You might not think so.
The thing is, we speak English, don't we? So like we can sing in England really easily, and like there's no physical barrier there at all. I mean, there's little cliquey scenes. Like it's quite hard to get into like the Bristol scene, say, or the Manchester scene, but that's the same for anyone, for everyone around the UK anyway, and around the world. So it's no harder, I think, for us. I think this is a small trap of maybe thinking that you can just be in that circuit and that's all you need to do or whatever. But especially maybe with Welsh language acts, I don't know, because I guess the opportunities are less to sing in Welsh outside of the country.
Yeah.
But
that's opening up as well now with bands like Gwenno.
Gwenno did the Welsh language thing.
Adwaith won the Welsh Music Prize last year. And
didn't Callan tour America a couple of years ago or something?
Yeah, they've done it loads of times. So yeah, even within the Welsh language music scene, you can still be focused outwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and there's quite a lot of Celtic festivals all over the world as well. So like I've been to Brittany and performed there because there's massive kind of Celtic culture in Brittany, and I'm sure there's quite a few in Canada and America as well. Just kind of like people get sent over there to perform and be showcased. And I definitely think that it is a trap, but I think it is just that. I think that it's just a way. It's like a perspective to think about it as a kind of as a limiting factor. Being from a small country, I think it's just really great to like own your roots, and I think the Welsh people are really good at doing that through their music and kind of just owning it and sharing the Welsh.
Isn't it? Make it an advantage, not a problem.
Yeah.
I think for us, like
I quite like how it's a small country and a small scene, because I think that kind of gives it a stronger identity in a sense, because everyone knows each other and it's kind of.
I think a lot of our music as well is sort of the sort of music we write is sort of inherently wrapped up in where we're from. So it hasn't really been a case of, it's felt natural to us to sort of remain within Wales and like be a part of like the local scene. Like there's a great scene, where we are in Cardiff, and there was a great scene in Swansea. And so it just sort of makes sense to us to sort of embrace that and to remain within it and grow as artists within that scene. It would sort of alienate us artistically if we were to just sort of move to London or whatever, just for the sake of this sort of perception that England or anything is like the way to success, because for us, where we are now is sort of the way to success, because that's where our music is sort of, as you say, like has its roots, and like that's where the sort of lineage that we're tapping into is it's all to do with where we are.
I mean, we write songs that are very influenced by the landscape of Wales as well. So it's music that it wouldn't sound like it does or have the ideas in it that it has if it was from elsewhere.
I think there's a real distinct character. Like you mentioned, like all these Welsh bands as well, but like a massive influence for us is John Cale as well, who like obviously went to America and like was like a massive icon with Velvet Underground.
Founded Velvet Underground.
And like that sort of there's something that I like associate there with like this Welsh spirit and this Welsh sort of character and real directness and sort of wit in his writing that we kind of want to tap into as well. But yeah, it feels just natural being in Wales to be able to do that.
Well, I think that's perfect, and this ties in really well to our next question, but I want to talk about how musicians typically do this thing where we modernize old classics or traditional styles and we really take from them. So I think most of you have mentioned this already, but do you find there's a value of bringing traditional Welsh elements into the music that you make nowadays? Can you explain why or why not?
I definitely am hugely inspired by like old traditional Welsh folk songs, and I would go as far as to say sometimes they don't even need modernizing. Sometimes they're just kind of absolutely beautiful just as they are, but obviously we've got better production now and they can kind of be sung clearer and performed clearer and captured clearer. I think it's really nice to weave in an element and of like the traditional songs for sure. And I kind of use it in my writing. And I actually recently I've been working on this song, which is it's a Welsh kind of tradition to write songs called lletau, which is like singing to the birds. And I thought I'd try and write one. Just like using these ancient traditions and like maybe putting a bit more of a modern spin on them.
Hold on, I need to hear an example of one of these songs now, because I have something in my head that might not be what you're thinking. And it's like, can you like demonstrate for us if that's okay? If not, that's fine.
Or just give an example.
Yeah, or an example.
So there's
Sing
like
Darren Mellon.
yeah, so there's this one that is really beautiful where it's about two people who live in different valleys, and they're lovers, and the man sings to the woman, and he sends the song through a bird. I think it's called, I can't remember what the song's called. It's something about bird, something about aderyn. It is the Welsh word for a bird, and he sends his message to the woman, who sends a message back saying that she's very sick, and by the time he sends his next message, she might not still be around to receive it from the bird. So it's like really tragic and sad and beautiful though. So that's an example of Llatau, I guess.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of sad, depressing folk songs in every tradition, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny that you bring that up too, because I can't remember who was talking about it before, but saying how you want to keep your music sounding like it is from Wales, and it wouldn't make sense in any other context. So for someone who's not from Wales, how would you describe your music in the context of Wales? Like if it was taken out of Wales, how would it sound different from any other sort of music?
I think that different parts of Wales have different personalities as well. There isn't an overall, well, there might be an overall general sound, but if maybe Bandicoot can speak to this more than I can, but if you're from the valleys, the Manics were from the valleys, and there's something a bit bitter about it, and it's a bit rough, and it's a bit dry. But there's also a really strong psychedelic edge to everything. Even when you're making pure pop music, there's a little hint of psychedelia in there.
I find like Welsh music's got a storytelling element to it, to most of it, which I try and bring into mine. It's like it's not so much about emotions or anything like that. It's a way of passing down stories and history, really. So I think that's quite prevalent in Welsh music across the board, I would say. And like we're all quite strong singers from Wales, so like harmonies are quite important as well. I find that seems to be quite a bit more singery than maybe other areas of the UK.
I think with us, I mean, like it's interesting because we're a rock band, so we write sort of, we sound, we use electric guitars and drums, and we play loud music and stuff. But I think with us, I think it's more in terms of like the lyrical content, how we sort of, we write in Welsh as well.
Well, a lot of the time it's when you're using these kind of old tropes, I think we tend to subvert it and kind of we use these kind of lyrical concepts in a bit of an ironic way when we're talking about kind of national identity, but we subvert it in a way that kind of also
challenges it.
It challenges it, but it also kind of
plays into,
makes it a precious thing.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if that makes sense really.
But I think like sometimes something we try and do as well is sort of use like alternating rhymes, like lines that sort of alternate between Welsh and English that also rhyme with each other. And I found that that's quite a good metaphor to talk about, like how we consider our music as well, like and the relationship between Welsh and English, and how they can be used in within the same song and the same sort of artistic environment or context, and they can sort of be different but also rhyming sonically as well. So there's a sort of contrast there where they're sort of interlinked and also separate, but for us we've grown up speaking both Welsh and English, so
it's just a very like Swansea thing where it's not really completely Welsh language. It's quite like it's mostly like an English speaking.
Swansea's not a particularly Welsh place, so for us, like growing up has involved both languages quite closely, like in kind of a complicated way. We think we all have like complicated relationships with Welsh, but like putting it into song in that way, and using that sort of Welsh tradition in terms of the language and the lyricism, I guess that sort of sums up our approach to it.
I think a lot of Welsh music also has quite a melancholic sort of edge to it. And I think a lot of it comes down to the Welsh concept of hiraeth, which is sort of translates as kind of homesickness.
Yeah, like a longing for something kind of intangible.
And I think a lot. I mean, it's a hard thing to talk about. This is very complicated and stuff. But I'm not sure if a lot of it might come out of kind of just the kind of post-colonial elements of Welsh history and
post-industrial
feeling separated from your own country in some ways, maybe. Yeah. I mean, this is just things I think about when I'm writing lyrics.
And I mean, also we've grown up in the same Dylan Thomas, so a lot of and that comes back to the storytelling element as well. The lyricism and the romanticism and that sort of Welshness. It's quite long-winded.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
So much.
I'm learning so much.
I'm so impressed.
And it's interesting that you mention how it's almost like you want to kind of bring back the language that had been kind of suppressed for so long. And it's I also love that idea of that homesickness and that melancholy, because I feel like that's what a lot of people can relate to, especially in countries where English is not the first language technically, or where there's more than one language spoken. And do you find that because you're writing in this way, do you find that the music works better in strictly the Welsh music scene, or do you find that writing in Welsh and in English has been helping you promote your stuff internationally? Do you find that there's a huge difference there?
Yeah. It's a tough one, because everyone in Wales, well, not everyone actually, we've both grown up speaking both Welsh and English, so we therefore write our music in Welsh and English. But I also think that the songs have different personalities when we write in Welsh and in English. But I don't think that's hindered our career. If we were to look at Spotify numbers, some of our English songs do better than the Welsh ones. And I don't know why that is, if we want to think about it like that.
I think it's changing a bit. I think it was cool when all the Icelandic people started singing in Icelandic, and that was fine. And that felt like a shift for minority languages being endorsed, being consumed by people who didn't speak that language. But still, like a couple of years ago, we were promoting our second album, and a radio plugger we had from London was like, well, we're writing off all the Welsh ones as potential singles, aren't we? And it's just like, well, that's a mad assumption to make. But since then as well, you mentioned before, Gwenna's released an album. Well, that was in Cornish, but she's done a lot of Welsh songs as well. So I think there's a general shift going on.
There is.
People still don't like watching French films and stuff today.
And there are some people also, maybe they've heard a song of ours which is in Welsh, then assume that we're just a Welsh language band, and therefore they slightly dismiss us. That's happened a few times, and there are a few blogs that have started HMS Morris are a Welsh language band from blah, blah, blah. It's like they haven't considered the full picture. But that's poor research from their side.
Do you think it'd be worthwhile, because we have got Welsh language radio stations, channels and stuff like that, but rather than making it separate, putting them together, because it's kind of like separating the Welsh language speakers from the English language speakers then, so there's not a crossover where English language people
it causes it's the same as any positive discrimination, isn't it? There's you kind of need, you can see why people feel that needs to be there to protect the language and keep it going, and that inevitably if you mixed it up it would be a sliding scale towards just English stuff because there's so many more English bands, I guess. But you are totally right, there's a big downside there that you end up separating it too much. And
there's no new listeners then, is there? It's just going to be the Welsh language people just listening to the Welsh language channel with no English speak. There's not going to be a crossover. So.
I think with us, we came at it we started off in English writing, and for me, the reason I found it slightly cynical, growing up in the scene, in a predominantly English speaking music scene. The only Welsh bands in Swansea were ones that would sort of write in Welsh for the sake, and they would always be write a Welsh song, whatever it is, and then you can get a gig, you can get a
just depends on the song.
And
you just write the song in the language that it wants to be.
It just felt kind of cynical for me when I was that age. And then we just sort of wrote in English. And then it was only maybe like a few years in that I realized that it was like another tool, like an artistic tool, and that you could say things in Welsh that you couldn't necessarily say in English, and you could tap into like a real creative outlet that was like unlike the English side. So
mixing them together in the same song is almost more interesting in a way, because you get a lot of interesting combinations and meanings and stuff.
And it just opened up a whole new world like of potential, and it didn't really, and it also opened us up as a band to like, because we weren't really in the Welsh language scene at that point. We were a Welsh band, but having like bilingual songs, Welsh language songs, gave us like an additional it actually benefited us like a lot, because we tapped into like a massive scene within Wales itself instead of sort of just being in the English scene. We were now we're straddling two different scenes, which was like was just really surprising actually, and like in a good way. It was nice.
It's just nice to not feel like you're pigeonholed as well, or like you have to write in one language. It's just just whatever feels right at that particular moment. You know, whatever's organic and stuff.
Our approach is that whatever serves the song, I think, like whatever the song needs. Like if it needs to be in Welsh, or if you want to say something in English, then it can be either. There's no sort of.
We've also played with translating lyrics a bit as well. Like Reese has translated some of my English words into Welsh ones, and kind of playing around with the different combinations of that. And that's been quite fun. Getting off topic.
Those are fantastic points to bring up. And like, again, it makes us look at this in a whole completely new light. And actually what you're describing sounds very similar to the French community here in Canada, and also, funnily enough, the Ukrainian community, of how it feels like your language is dying and you want to keep it going, but you also don't want to like sell yourself out either. So this is more of just like a follow-up / curiosity question. Do you guys feel any sort of responsibility to have more of your songs in Welsh, not just for you and your own personal thoughts, but maybe to reach some people who are Welsh, who are living in places like Canada or the US or any other country that are like, oh, this is Welsh music, I can get into this kind of thing? Do you guys feel responsibility to try to market to those people as well, or no?
I don't really feel any responsibility actually. I think like I sort of try and look at it from a purely like artistic point of view, really, like as pretentious as that may sound. But I mean, I think it's actually sort of a more political responsibility, like of like Welsh government or England, without being, without going into politics. But I think artists, like, if they have the means of doing it, then they should. But I think feeling responsibility too heavily can, like, I mean, the important thing is the music, I think, ultimately.
And force yourself to do it, because it won't come across as genuine or anything.
As much as I care about the music and the language, and as much as I'm so passionate for its survival and everything, I don't think it's the artist's job to make sure that happens. I think I think it's a great artistic tool, but I don't think you should feel the responsibility too harshly. As you said, you don't want to force you don't want to force it for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're really lucky to be coming after a bunch of generations that did have to fight hard for the status of Welsh, and effectively threatened war until we got like our own channels on the radio and the TV, and now it's just for us to create content to put on those channels, I guess, class, if we want to.
Yeah, we kind of have full creative decision as to whether or not we want to, what language we want to use. And I just think that's really beautiful, because I think Helen mentioned it's almost like the songs kind of appear to you, and if they appear in Welsh, then you just go with that and write it in Welsh, and it's like shining a different light on a part of yourself using different languages, and I think that's just like a magic thing. I bet linguists like have a field day just reading and listening to songs in different languages.
Yeah.
Just, you are all so poetic.
Quite lucky that we got
it. Yeah. I love that, of just like shining a different light on your soul. It's like something is in Welsh, your soul feels different. Something's in English, your soul. I love that so much.
Now, we kind of mentioned this at the beginning of our show, that both of us really didn't know much about Wales. And I think some of our audience members on Twitch are kind of feeling the same way. So What do you wish more people knew about the country of Wales? And maybe what's something you wish people knew more about the Wales music scene?
Yeah, I'd like people to know that we've got a rich history of music. And we got modern Welsh music. It's not just the old fashion kind of music, like Celtic music. We have got modern Welsh music, which is good, and like it deserves listening to. And I don't think that needs to get a bit more of a light shown on it. I think. But yeah, I'd like it'd be good if we get more acts coming to Wales. We kind of I feel, especially with touring acts, they see Bristol, they see the border, and they don't come across the border. So I think we're struggling a bit with that. So like for people to know that there is a music scene here would be beneficial for us, I would say.
Some of our landscape and our mountains is like a tiny mini Canada. So if you want to tell the Canadians that, we'd love to come over and play all our gigs in Canada. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
But what would we want people to know about us?
To have some kind of appreciation that people do, live through the language of Welsh, so it's not weird when people make music in Welsh. It's cool, I guess.
Yeah.
That we're just not England.
That is a very, very
Yes.
common misconception. So many people are like, Wales, that's England, right? And like for the longest time, I thought that too. So I'm guilty of that as well. But to be fair, other people are like, Canadian, that means American, right? We're like, no. So I understand how angry that would make you.
We've been telling people not to come here for the last 8 months, so to try and invite people there now is hard work.
Don't buy holiday homes in Wales. Not getting political or anything.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing all of that. I feel like we're learning a lot about Wales right now, and this is great. Like I wanted people to learn about this, and I mean we're probably going to end up going, because if you say it's like Canada, then we're
there.
surefire there, buddy.
Not as cold.
And actually, funnily enough, one thing that, at least in the city that we're in, we tend to have a lot of festivals going on because the music scene is so vibrant here, and it's kind of on its way up. I would say it's getting closer to like Toronto and Vancouver levels, at least in my opinion. And we know that Wales has a lot of incredible music festivals throughout the year. How involved are you guys through the local music festivals there? Do you find involving yourself in these festivals is a benefit to your music career at all?
Yeah, definitely. A huge benefit. I think they really solidify the scene and the connections that we all have with each other. We've got Focus Wales up in North Wales, which is near me, and Soon Festival, which is down in Cardiff. And there's like this road that links the two called the A470. So I'm sure we're all familiar with like driving up and down that to get to different festivals all over the country. And yeah, there are great places to see and discover other acts that you might have like heard whisperings of, and then you just realize how incredible they are live. And they're also great places to just meet other people who are in the industry and do a bit of the networking and just go to like panel talks and things like that. It's such an incredible experience to go to these festivals. I really love it, and just talking about it now is making me miss it a lot. I'm sure everyone else agrees.
We've also got the Free For All Festival as well, which ties in with Bristol, so that's a good way of linking other music scenes as well. They got they do it one weekend in Cardiff, and I don't know if they run at the same time in Bristol, but they're linked up, so that's quite helpful as well. But we've also got a couple of high-profile festivals. We've got Green Man. We've got Festival Number 6. And they get quite high-profile acts in, and it's only going up, I would say.
Mm-hmm. They're good for just actually. It's worth putting that on your CV, kind of thing, kind of on your bio. But also because they are Welsh, there's a good chance you've got some link to someone running a stage there or something where you can get in on the bill. Like, so it's more likely than wangling your way into latitudes or whatever.
Not that we've done that. But I was getting back to Focus Wales that Eve was talking about. Focus Wales has a great reputation for swapping bands from different countries So we'll do kind of an exchange. So you always discover bands from everywhere.
Canada, Sweden, Korea, Japan. They've done a lot recently, haven't they?
Yeah. And a lot of those bands, they come for the weekend to this small city called Wrexham, and it's absolute mayhem for a weekend. And it's so much fun and so entertaining for everyone that people just want to go back again and again. And we were really lucky that Focus Wales sent us over to Canada a few times. So we came over to
they sent us to Montreal.
They sent us to Montreal, but they also came. They came with us to
Canadian Music Week. No, they didn't.
Indie Week, Toronto.
Indie Week. Oh yeah.
So and there's always applications open with them, and they're really good at giving chances to new bands. So I just can't praise Focus Wales enough, really. They're amazing.
We were meant to play Focus Wales for the first time this year, but sadly it was cancelled. But we're hearing these stories now and just making us really jealous.
The variety there is amazing. You don't know what you're going to bump into. We played last year, and the fella before us, he was playing a typewriter and treading on pebbles.
Mailer.
Yeah, and it was quite intense. And then we played. Then after us, there was like a Korean punk band. So it was mental. It was crazy.
What you said about, like, for us, like, a big one was Soon in Cardiff. But not only as, like, we played there a couple of years ago, but I remember being like 16 and like going up to Cardiff on the train from Swansea to go to Soon for the first time, and like some of the bands I saw there, like I remember seeing Blind Avon there, who were like I was like really sort of fell in love with when I saw, and just that has been like a real point of ambition for us, like to get to those like as little checkpoints. And I think like getting local festivals like that, kind of seeing them on the horizon as like things to play. And then if, like Green Man, as we never played Green Man, but like really just been to Green Man and like loved it.
It's very inspiring, and it's just lovely to have these exciting things going on. And I feel like it's actually got a bit better in Wales in the last few years, I'd say. Like especially in Swansea, like the Swansea Fringe Festival started again.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's just been more and more stuff happening. Well, before this year anyway.
I think the great thing is that
so it's quite an exciting time at the moment, I feel.
The festivals on like lots of different levels as well. Like really, really small scale stuff like the Swansea Fringe, like was like great for us. Like we headlined and we would like go up the bill over the years, and then like Soon is the same thing, and like hopefully beyond that. And I think they're just, as I said, they're just like really good kind of they're just inspiring and make you sort of more ambitious, and kind of you can visualize your progress then when you play these festivals.
There's also a really nice sense of community, I say, because it is a small country and everyone does know each other.
Yeah.
It's always like just really friendly, and you bump into people and everyone just knows each other, and I think that's really nice.
But the quality is there as well. Is like even though it's a small country, the quality is still there, and that's another thing that like people need to know about Wales, I think.
Yeah. For the size that it is, there's so many phenomenal talented musicians.
Yeah,
it is amazing.
And I think a lot of you have mentioned how these festivals have given you a lot of growth, obviously with your networking and just being in a band in general or as an artist. So I kind of want to shift to talking about just being musicians. So if you could restart as a musician from the very beginning of your career, what are things that you would do differently?
Learn my scales better. No, I don't know.
What would we do differently
as musicians?
I feel like the mistakes have actually were beneficial.
They always learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is a hard one.
It's a tricky question.
I feel like it's just a constant evolving thing, isn't it? And I've enjoyed all of it. Really, like even being terrible was really fun.
I guess. I personally, I started off like learning classical music until I was about 13 or 14. So I didn't really. I think maybe if I told myself back then to sort of, I didn't really like it by the end. I was sort of sick of it. So I think if I'd sort of used music as something individual and personal and creative, and like done it for the right reasons, and like doing it because you like it and not because you have to sit an exam or anything. Maybe for me personally, that's what I would do. But I don't know. I think that's a good message. Like the whole point of being a musician and an artist is just like embracing the flaws and using the flaws to your benefit and using them to create and reinvest that energy and I don't know, have some drive and just keep working on this craft.
I would have probably tried not so hard to fit in like at 15, 16. It's like it was the middle of, like, it was 2005, 2006, so it was very much in the emo era, and everyone is just trying to fit in, and like we did quite well. It was like we played with like Kids in Glass Houses, Blackout, Enter Shikari and stuff like that, but it just wasn't getting, like, you could turn around and chuck a stick and hit a band just as good or better. So like, but it was just like, oh, this is not working, or let's try this scene, or let's try that scene. I would have just preferred just be myself. I would have think. Should have been emo.
That's funny.
The one thing I was going to say, the advice I would have given myself is to not worry about what my parents think of my music.
You still do.
I still do. They don't listen anymore, so it's fine. But that's one thing I would have told myself. Because I feel like I played it down or didn't write as intensely or as deeply as I could have, because I was worried they'd read into it and worry about me. So yeah, I'm 31 now and I still worry about it. I've decided I'm not going to anymore. So
my brother used to write songs, and I found one of his lyric sheet once and had a swear word in it, and I brought it to my parents, and they give him a ball licking. So I've always tried to keep my songs clean.
Yeah,
but I feel bad for that. Because he hasn't. I don't know if he's written a song since.
There's something about Welsh parents that can make you really quiver in your boots.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, that all makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it's always interesting to know for me, because I'm always interested to know if you'd rather just like experience everything you experience again, or having the knowledge to kind of change things if you could. But it sounds like you're all thinking about your careers and you're constantly analyzing of what you can do, how to make yourselves better, and how to further yourself artistically as well as professionally. So what are some ways that you guys have tried to build your online brand, for example? So what are some tips and tricks that helped you build your online presence? So HMS, Morris, can we get you guys to answer this one?
I think we're really rubbish online, so I don't know if I'm the best person to talk about this. People keep telling me, I've heard people say that to be good online now as a musician, you need to be on all the platforms. You need to be on TikTok and Instagram and blah, blah, blah. But I just can't be asked. So I'm not giving any good advice right here. But I think you just have to try and be yourself and not try and sell things all the time, which I'm also a little bit guilty of, I think.
Well, because why else are you there? But again, I don't know anything about social media, but the good advice somebody gave us, I thought, was that everything's changing and all the rules are being made up all the time still. Like, it's early days, historically speaking, for social media. So things like tools will be used in different ways and stuff, bound to. And it's about just trying to step back and not look at what everyone else is doing necessarily, but working out what the tools are, how you could possibly use them for your benefit, and then do that effectively. Not necessarily just like splurging content everywhere all the time, because I think that's knackering. And I've heard YouTube people speak, and their lives are so stressful and like driven to create content all the time. It's just like, you don't want to be like that. Think of a way to make it work for you without making it just destroy who you are.
Yeah, because I think even just the word content is like so soulless. It's like, this is our art. It's not content. And Yeah, I've gone through a real like thing with social media this year, and I think I don't really like. I'm also crap on social media, and I think the way I've kind of made peace with it a little bit is to just kind of actually go on it less, and then I find that the work that I'm making is just a lot better because I'm not kind of creating with an audience in mind already, which I think is a bit of a pitfall of social media. And then you get into thinking about, you kind of categorize things into like, is this good content? Is this good content? And so yeah, it's a really tough one to answer because I think social media is a brilliant tool, but it can be quite fraught as well. So I guess my advice would be just like be yourself, but like just remember that like all of yourself doesn't have to be online as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, people show their best selves online as well. So you might be looking at other people's profiles, being like, "Oh, they've got this, they got that.
Yeah.
Why am I?" But then you're not thinking about the stuff that you've actually got. You're thinking of the stuff you haven't got.
A terrible master, ultimately, isn't it? It's like if you know if you use it well, then it's great, but it can just destroy you, I think, and you can't compare yourself to anyone else. Really.
I think it's actually one of the hardest things to do, like, and also the most soul destroying thing to try and do as like a band or an artist, because it's like
it's getting your personality across while still being authentic, without being forced.
It's essentially, kind of, I guess it's definitely a case of less is more, isn't it? And you don't want it to seem like a hollow thing. You want to be as authentic as possible, but also, present a version of yourself, an appealing version of yourself to whoever. But I think, like you've all said, I think that the best way about it is just to be as, I guess,
tool at the end of the day.
Yeah, just be as like conservative with it in terms of like, using it, limited, not like over sharing or just, but also you kind of have to maintain a presence as well. So it's kind of just finding that balance of like not letting it sort of consume you, but just using it in your favor and trying to be as authentic as possible.
It's a weird one because it is such a new tool. I don't think anyone really knows what they're doing in some ways, or like people haven't really realized how much it's changing everything. Like really, not just music. It's an interesting one.
And I think it goes without saying that you all have done a great job so far of using your social medias because we found you through Instagram. So I think you're all doing a splendid job, no matter how hard it may seem to be for you guys.
And I actually had a follow-up question as well, because all of you are mentioning authenticity, making sure that you're not overbearing with your quote-unquote content, all that jazz. If you guys had to list some examples of posts that you've created that you felt really proud of, or anything that you put online that you felt proud of, that you're like, this is me, what would that example be from your social media? And anyone can jump into this one.
Especially this year, it's been quite hard because no one's had anything to do really. So like, but I've spent the time like trying to record like live sessions, but not just like I've been trying to go to like local businesses and stuff like that. One in Maisie's up in the Uplands. I've been talking to the sorry, my dog making a noise. Talking to the Swig. She wants us to do one there, and I also went to Manchester and to London as well. So like, but I've also been doing it in like beauty spots as well to try and promote Wales a bit. I've done some in the Gower. I went to a Christmas tree farm yesterday to film something. Oh. So
I saw that video. I saw the clip. It looks great.
Of the Christmas tree field.
Oh, I saw that as well. Yeah, that was great. Is that
over?
Is it on Kilvey Hill? Is it?
No, it's the Three Cliffs. Is it? Three Crosses.
Yeah, it's the Three Cliffs one, the Fresh Gower Christmas trees one. Yeah, got to play with reindeer, so that was fun.
Oh. We need to link all these locations below so that Canadian people know what we're on about.
Yeah. So I went to like down the beaches in the Gower as well, and Clydach and stuff like that. Just loads of different places, just to try and promote Wales a bit as well.
Yeah, that is the best. One of the best things about Wales is the amazing beaches. Yeah. If anyone in Canada likes beaches, because it was lockdown, we did a cover every week.
Yeah,
we tried to. I don't think we actually managed.
I think we did. I think we did.
But yeah, it was, and then we put them in an album at the end, so it was just like a thing we just posted every week.
It actually helped.
It kept us busy in lockdown and stuff.
Now we're recording a lot in the house as well, so it set us up really nicely for like practicing like home recording and like doing it like demos and stuff. and it was also really fun. And
yeah,
it
it was
kind
just
of
really fun.
was a nice way of like communicating like because we picked like our favorite song, like songs that have influenced us, and like a range of stuff. And it was quite a good way. It's kind of like making a playlist, but like we were singing the songs.
It's available on Bandcamp if anyone is interested.
But I think like trying to find interesting ways of communicating with an audience it's quite hard. But if you just, again, it's just comes back to authenticity and just like, what do you want to do, and like what feels good to do.
I was quite happy with the result of the post we did just before we opened the pre-order of our EP now.
What did we say?
We said we totally put out a heartbreaking story on Facebook about how hard it was to be a musician in 2020 and asked everyone to actually buy stuff off Bandcamp instead of streaming it through Spotify, and loads of people did. It was well good. But like it's a funny platform, Facebook, or I suppose it's a good one in that, you know, you've seen your mates putting down their massive speech out of nowhere for some reason about how strongly they feel about somebody should be kicked off, I'm a celebrity or whatever. You know that people can write these sort of 5-paragraph bits and get away with it. So we did that to beg for money, and it turned out that people are really like up for supporting people and actually paying for their arts, which is really a good result for humanity.
Yeah, but it wasn't a fake sob story. We didn't make it up. It was
no, it was true. It was true.
That's fine.
Yeah, Bandcamp Fridays.
Yeah, they're the best.
Where it's at.
Yeah,
they have been good.
They don't take the fees on the first Friday of every month.
That's what I like, because we put out like
which is a lot more than Spotify are doing for anyone.
We're spilling some tea today.
Yeah. So to finish off this roundtable, Marissa and I like to help our audience with informative advice on becoming a musician. So as we can really only speak from a Canadian perspective, we were wondering, what advice would you all offer to any aspiring Welsh artists?
Oh God, that's a hard question. Just like I said earlier, just be yourself as well. It like in any music industry, in any country, it's hard. You got to get used to knockbacks like that, but you got to see the good in things as well. It's easy to see the negatives and everything like that, but I would recommend looking at the good and concentrating on that and striving towards that. And not, if you enjoy it, don't stop, just keep going. And that would be my advice to anyone that's starting music in the music industry.
Yeah, I'd follow on from that as well, and definitely agree with just like keep going and just be yourself. And one thing that I found really good was to kind of just pare it down and just actually focus on like my square mile and like the people around me, because like you can find so much inspiration there, like kind of like what we were saying before. You don't have to look elsewhere for the inspiration. It can just be found around you if you know where to look. And I ran a project a couple of years ago where I invited local people to send me their stories, and I turned them into folk songs. And that was just one of the best things I ever did, because again, it was like, it kind of links into everything that we've said about like audience and getting your audience behind you, and just building like a really, just like a strong kind of team. It's like a family really, like the people that my audience feels like a family sometimes. And just really kind of not thinking about them too much, because you don't want to be creating for them, like I said earlier, but also just using the support that they can give you. And so I'm kind of saying two things really, like value your audience and also explore what you've got like right in front of you, because sometimes limits the best things. I'm sure we've all discovered that in lockdown. It's amazing how creative you can be when you just kind of pare it down.
I recently started seeing the whole sort of music career thing as just a bit of an endurance test. I think like the longer you can hold out and like still justify doing music, at some point it will pay off. This kind of, I don't know how, justifiable a belief, but like I think it is a justifiable belief. Like you kind of just have to keep going regardless of any circumstances, and you have to completely commit to the music that you're making, and you have to be sort of very blinkered about it as well, and quite irrationally so, I think, as well, just like regardless of what's happening, just got to keep going forward. I found that sort of brute determination quite useful. But yeah, I think that's how I'm thinking about it at the moment.
Yeah, it's a career in music is definitely not for anyone who gives up easily. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's actually the end of our show today. I am so happy we got to chat with all of you, and we really did. Honestly, I feel like I was in a class and I just learned like an hour, hour of information from my teachers.
I'm definitely going to check out all of those different places that you guys were mentioning earlier. I want to see the Christmas tree farm so bad.
Yes.
The Christmas tree field. I need to see it. That was really cool. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show and for sharing with us. Yeah. This was so much fun to learn about. And we're going to actually get everybody else to do their outro because we want everyone to find where you guys are online.
Yes.
So, Sons of Owen, can we get you to do your outro?
Yeah, thanks for watching. Yeah, I'm Dewi from Sons of Owen. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search in Sons of Owen, and then we'll be there.
Awesome. Eve, can we get you next?
Yeah, I'm Eve Goodman, and you can find all my kind of social media stuff on my website, which is evegoodman.co.uk. Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. Bandicoot, can we hear you guys next?
Yeah, so we're Bandicoot. You can find us on like Spotify and Facebook. Instagram, we're bandy.coot. And we're just finishing up our first album, which will be out next year. So it'd be great to have you along to listen to that when it comes out. Thanks for having us.
It'll be out in
July, I think.
Hopefully
in
July.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks very much. It's been great. Cheers.
Awesome. And HMS Morris.
We're HMS Morris. You can find us on all the usuals. Probably at HMS Morris or HMS Morris Band.
HMSMorris.com is the website, which has all those links on as well.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
So if you guys are at home watching this roundtable with Vienna Whyte on Twitch, make sure to follow us to be notified about all of our upcoming live streams throughout the week. Or if podcasts are more your style, be sure to search up the Vienna Whyte podcast on Spotify. I'm Millie Rouge, one of your hosts.
And I'm Marissa Kay, your other host. You can find our band www.viennawhyte.com. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, Twitch, all that jazz. And thank you guys so much for joining us for Music from Wales today on our roundtable.
We will see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.